Welcome to Time Out for Marriage. When we're upset with our spouse about something he or she has done or said to us, we may say something like, "You make me so angry," or "You make me so frustrated." It might be helpful to recognize some truths about marriage and actually all relationships that stand side by side but might at first glance seem to be contradictory. The first is, each of us is responsible for our own feelings and reactions. No one can make anyone feel a particular emotion, nor can anyone make anyone react or respond to something in a particular way. Secondly, however, in loving our spouse, we need to be aware of his or her sensitivities and not deliberately push buttons that tend to evoke a strong emotional response. So, if our spouse says or does something and we react with, "You made me feel this or that," we're actually taking responsibility away from owning our own emotions and putting them on our spouse. And further, we put our spouse on the defensive because we have made an accusation. So, some of us might have grown up in a home with a lot of yelling. For one person who grew up in such a home, if his or her spouse yells at them, they may have a negative and visceral reaction and might feel very anxious or scared and say to their spouse, "You made me scared." Someone else who grew up in a similar home may simply respond with a shrug of the shoulders and have little to no emotional reactivity. Same words, but very different emotional response. If yelling or screaming or something else your spouse tends to say or do evokes a negative emotional reaction in you, saying something like, "I feel scared when," "I feel anxious when," is a much more appropriate response than saying, "You scare me," or "You make me feel whatever." So, in conclusion, first, each of us is responsible for our own feelings. No one can make anyone feel a particular emotion or act in a certain way. However, we need to be sensitive to our spouse's sensitivities and not push buttons. And finally, it's really important that if we have a tendency to have a strong emotional reaction to particular words or actions of our spouse, it may be God's way of tapping us on the shoulders to remind us that we might have an inner wound or a marriage issue that we need to attend to. Until next time.